I missed the last express train home after my friend selfishly got her nails done. Was it completely her fault, or should I have taken responsibility and left without her? AITA Storytime, expert opinion, and viewer debate. For some context, I live in the suburbs of Chicago, about an hour away from the city. The most affordable and convenient way for me to travel between home and the city is by train. Driving isn't really an option for me because I don't have a driver's license yet, and even if I did, Chicago's traffic is notoriously frustrating. Taking an Uber, while possible, is incredibly expensive, around $65 each way, which is simply not a cost-effective option for a casual day out. In contrast, a train ticket costs only $12 and is valid all day, making it the most reasonable choice. My friend, who lives in the city, invited me to spend the day in Chinatown with her. I was excited about the plan and made arrangements to take the train into the city. I arrived early in the morning, catching the 10 a.m. train, meaning I had been awake since 8 a.m. despite only getting about 5 hours of sleep due to my ongoing struggle with insomnia. Nonetheless, I was determined to enjoy my day. When I met up with my friend in the city, her dad kindly offered to drive us to Chinatown. Before we got there, I made it explicitly clear that I needed to catch the 7:00 p.m. train home. This was important because the 7:00 p.m. train was the last express train of the day, meaning it would take only 30 minutes to get home. If I missed it, I would have to take the regular train, which takes a full hour. Since I was already exhausted and had been out all day, I really wanted to catch the express train. Her dad acknowledged my time constraint and reassured me that he would pick us up at 6:30 p.m. to drive me to the station, which seemed like a solid plan at the time. Fast forward to later in the day, my friend and I were having a great time exploring Chinatown. However, as 5:45 p.m. approached, I started to get a little anxious and reminded her that we needed to be ready to leave soon. She acknowledged this and assured me that she was aware of the time. I felt reassured by her response and continued to enjoy our time together. Then, completely out of the blue, she decided to get her nails done, both a pedicure and a manicure, at the last minute. I was immediately concerned about the time, but I didn't want to be rude or ruin the mood, so I reluctantly went along with it. However, as I sat there watching her get pampered, my anxiety started to grow. The process was taking much longer than I had anticipated. Every time I glanced at my phone, I could feel my stress levels rising. By the time 6:30 p.m. rolled around, her dad still hadn't arrived, and my friend was still in the middle of getting her nails polished. I was visibly anxious, constantly checking the time and shifting in my seat. She noticed my unease and tried to reassure me, saying it would be fine, but I knew better. Time was slipping away fast. Finally, at around 6:45 p.m., she texted her dad and asked him to start heading our way. At this point, I was practically panicking because I knew we were cutting it way too close. Her nails were finally finished at 6:50 p.m. At this point, I had only 10 minutes to make it to the station before my train left. She quickly paid for her services, and we rushed outside to meet her dad. However, as soon as he started the car and pulled out of the parking spot, the check engine light came on, and the car wouldn't function properly. He apologized profusely, explaining that it was an old, used car that had been needing repairs. Even though I was immensely frustrated, I knew it wasn't his fault. I held back my irritation and assured him that it was okay, despite the fact that I was seething inside. Meanwhile, the clock struck 7:00 p.m. And just like that, I had officially missed my train. Since her dad's car was out of commission, I had no choice but to call an Uber to take me to the train station. Unfortunately, due to construction work near the station, my Uber driver was unable to drop me off right at the entrance. Instead, I had to get out and walk the remaining distance, which was easier said than done. I'm not very familiar with navigating downtown Chicago, and with my phone battery rapidly draining, I was struggling to figure out which direction to go. I tried asking multiple people on the street if they could point me toward Union Station, but most of them either didn't know or weren't from the area. It felt like I was stranded in a maze with no clear way out, and the panic was setting in. My exhaustion from the long day, combined with the stress of being lost in a big city with a nearly dead phone, made me feel completely overwhelmed. After what felt like an eternity of wandering around, I finally managed to find my way to the station and catch the 7:33 p.m. train. It wasn't the express train I had initially planned for, but at least I was finally on my way home. When I arrived at my stop, my mom picked me up. As soon as I got in the car, she asked me why I wasn't on the 7:00 p.m. train. I explained everything that had happened: the last-minute nail appointment, the car breaking down, the Uber situation, and how I had gotten lost trying to find my way to the station. She was immediately frustrated on my behalf. She pointed out that my friend had been incredibly inconsiderate by choosing to get her nails done at the last minute, despite knowing multiple times that I had a strict time constraint. She also told me that I should have just left earlier and called an Uber to the train station instead of waiting around for her dad to pick us up. In hindsight, I knew she was right. Now, I'm wondering if I would be the asshole if I confronted my friend and told her that she was responsible for me missing my train. On one hand, I know that her dad's car breaking down wasn't her fault, but on the other hand, if she hadn't decided to get her nails done last minute when she was well aware of my time limit, I wouldn't have been put in that stressful situation in the first place. It was entirely avoidable, and she showed a complete lack of consideration for my schedule. So, Reddit, would I be the asshole if I told my friend that missing my train home was her fault? Expert opinion. If you're old enough to go to the city alone, you're old enough to take responsibility for your own time. Instead of waiting, you should have called an Uber at 6:00 p.m. Your friend may have been inconsiderate, but missing the train was ultimately on you.